all the learning and struggling, while we learned a lot, we would be farther had we not made that jump.
Hey, today I'm here with Christian Osgood, one of my best friends and the proud owner of the Robin Hood Village Resort in Union, Washington.
Welcome.
Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here with Christian. Thanks for coming back.
Dude, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is really fun. I know we had to talk about business. I'm on the channel all the time. But we've talked a little bit about real estate. I know we've had a few different people that you've had me on with, which I appreciate. But really wanted to share this adventure. We're at the Robin Hood Village Resort. This is a $4.5 million resort. It's 19 cabins, well, 18 cabins in an RV spot. Super, super fun. This was built in 1934, so it's a historic property on the Hood Canal. Right down the way there, we have the water, we have kayaks, and then we're sitting right now in our wedding venue. So this is a few businesses wrapped into one. We have events, we have activities, and we have the actual nightly stays. So thought this was a good one to share, as it was a creatively purchased asset and multiple businesses in one.
Yeah, that's awesome. We just had Sav Irwin on the channel. She has a lot of short-term stuff too. This is a little different. She has a hotel. You actually have an entire resort here.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, we'll jump right into it. How did you get started this? What kind of made you, I know you're huge in multifamily, we both are, but what kind of gave you the confidence to branch into hospitality and made you want to do that?
I think the biggest thing for me was the actual location itself. Right now, we are in the woods. As I mentioned earlier, the water and kayaks are right over there. But we have some of the best fishing. We're at the foothills of the Olympic Mountains. So you have mountains, eagles are flying around everywhere. Right now, the seals are back in the canal. So you just have fantastic wildlife. We're on a 12.5-acre resort. There's a little stream back there running through it. So it really, for me, it was the adventure of the nature, the uniqueness of the property that made me think it's time for something new.
So yeah, basically a completely new adventure for multifamily. Was there any synergies overlapping, or was it kind of a brand new thing, building systems from the ground up?
That's actually a great question, because when I started, I figured that, hey, we can run all this multifamily. Hospitality will be a little bit harder, but we have the experience to figure it out. That is not true. There's actually very little overlap. Now, there are some things like, hey, there's legal compliance. The maintenance side is very similar because, again, it's living spaces. The people side, the booking, the way you market, the way that you have to staff is extremely different. Like right now for 19 cabins, I have right now on site an 8-person staff.
Okay.
Each cabin has its own hot tub, so right there, hot tub tech. You need someone to manage everyone. We have a laundry facility, but that has to be run by someone. We have 4 hours on each turn day to completely renew the campus, so the laundry's running every second. And then you have to have cleaners who can get all the cabins turned in that time.
Wow.
Plus you have grounds and get 12.5 acres. So there's a lot that goes into this that is a totally different beast, much more active than multifamily.
So this is a whole different animal in the sense, other than it's real estate, that's pretty much the only overlap there is.
Yeah, I would say that's about true. It's places for humans to live, and there is ground underneath it that you own. Outside of that, I would say hospitality and multifamily have very little to do with each other.
Okay, so you talked about building up this whole team. Was there anything in place like that when you bought the place, or did you kind of have to say, hey, ground zero, we don't know, and just go from there?
You know what? There wasn't, but there's a reason for that. For all 88 years of its, I was actually on year 89.
Wow.
But on all 88 years prior, the owner of the Robin Hood has lived on site or next door. Now, we actually bought the property next door and expanded the campus, but I don't live here. I live about an hour and a half away. And I live about 2 minutes away from my business partner, Cody Davis. So we're not here all the time. We had to build new systems because this was optimized for a on-site manager who lives here and owns the Robin Hood. Automating those systems has been, I would say, probably 10 times the project that we originally projected.
That feels like that's how it goes in real estate.
Very often.
So we're talking about challenges now. It's kind of the challenge is making everything automated from an on-site owner to now you guys are off-site. Has there been any unforeseen challenges besides that, or was that kind of the biggest thing, the biggest hurdle to overcome?
Staffing was definitely the hardest. We didn't end up retaining almost any of the original staff. There's a few key members, but they were part of a totally different system, and most people did not acclimate. It wasn't that it was a huge change. It was that they were very resistant to change because things have been done that way for a very, very, very long time. When we came in with new systems, not everyone was on board, so some people left, some people were let go. That was probably the most difficult thing. I think the second was, how do you run the events business with no experience and coordinate the nightly stays without any automation.
Ooh.
What we're working on right now, and we have quite a bit of automation, but we're actually building a system for like the grounds. We're installing cameras to check each area so that anyone can view it remotely.
Oh, that's a big change.
Yep. Doors are going from keys that are left on the counter, which is also a security issue, to you can book on your phone on the app, and then you can go to your door and unlock with your phone, kind of like you would at an Airbnb. We actually brought the properties onto Airbnb and got.
It wasn't on Airbnb before?
It was not. They were using Expedia, which is one way you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Run more like a traditional hotel nightly stay thing. As we
Right.
went into the event, vacation, wedding side of things, and that's really been our focus. We migrated to Airbnb, got Superhost status very quickly, which I'm grateful for. That is all thanks to Hannah on my team. But as we built this thing out, automation. Can people easily come and book a stay? Can they easily get into their cabins without humans having to let them in? We did a lot with property technology and automation to start doing those, but that was hard and expensive to learn.
Yeah, it does seem like a pain in the butt, to say the least.
Yes.
So you're mentioning, I kind of keep hearing you reiterate, you're transitioning into events. Was it not an event center before, or kind of what's going on there?
It was, so this has been a wedding venue for a very long time, but that's mostly been the extent of it. Now, historically, there actually used to be a bar and restaurant on site. It was actually owned by the Nordstrom family for a long time.
I think everybody knows them.
Yes, the past, speaking of a channel about business, they've done okay. But what we ended up doing was the prior owner incorporated that front building, the restaurant. They turned that into additional units and the bar into an event space. But that was right in 2020 to 2022. So no one was using it because people couldn't do large gatherings indoors. Now that we have that and the whole campus is put together, we're doing more than just weddings. We just ran a huge concert series. We actually had Christian Bush from Sugarland open for us, which was really fun.
That's pretty awesome.
But we do a whole bunch of music events. There's actually people who book birthdays here now, corporate events, church camps. There's a lot more this can do. We found that it is a more consistent form of income, and it's easier to turn the cabins when you have these events that book the whole campus, multi-night stays, because there's a few nights where the staff can have a few days off.
Yeah, that seems to be the bread and butter you keep talking about. It's like the whole campus instead of these individual things. You're kind of bringing it all into one.
Yes, you're looking for efficiencies. And so when a new owner, and this applies to everyone buying a business, when you come into any business, the first thing you do is kind of identify, okay, what things are being done well and learn the current systems. You don't want to change everything at once. Always a huge mistake. Right. We changed too many things too quick here, but that's something that we've learned. Master the current systems, then figure out, how do I need to optimize this for me? And the way you're going to run it is going to be different than someone else is going to run it. So for us, we need to be able to manage remotely while still being on site often. We're not here enough to manage everything day to day.
Right.
So remotely. And how do we maximize the revenue with the pieces we have? We're really good marketers for events. We run a lot of events ourselves in our other companies. And so we found that was the perfect use of this space with all of the acreage and the on-site living.
Yeah, it's something you preach a lot. It's just like synergies, keeping everybody's incentives in line, and that works for you guys. You guys are an events business, and you run events here. That just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
So next question. You've done this hospitality, like 18 cabin resort. What do you see in the future for hospitality with you? Are you going to keep going? Is this kind of, hey, dip my feet in it, I'm kind of done, I'm going to stick with multifamily? Or kind of what do you see as the next steps for you?
Definitely going to buy the world's largest pickleball resort, and we're going to go...
Come check it out.
I actually would love to do that project, but I don't know what the next hospitality project is yet. A mistake we made, I think the biggest mistake, was I love this deal. This was a fantastic deal, and this place makes money. That said, we would have done better sticking with our core business. We're multifamily people. Had we done a few more years of that, added more employees to property management and our other businesses, stabilized what we were already mastering, and then moved into hospitality, we would have been a lot farther, both financially and just in business in general, than I think we are today. I think all the learning and struggling, while we learned a lot, we would be farther had we not made that jump.
So is it a form of regret? Like, if this deal, let's say we're 2 years in the past, about a year in the past now, would you do this all over again, or would you push this off a few years down the line, then tackle this project?
I would do a project exactly like this 1 or 2 years in the future from where we were. We were just a little over a year in business, doing very well, and decided, hey, you know what? Things are working really well. Let's try a big challenge. I think challenging yourself just to challenge yourself while it's a good practice, it's not the best way to build a business. There is a certain amount of get to mastery before you jump to the next project.
Agreed.
Especially for young entrepreneurs. I see a lot of people, you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
It's very easy to have such a shiny object syndrome. This was a good deal again. Like, glad we did it, but timing wise, I would have done this 1 or 2 years in the future from when we started.
That makes sense. I mean, we've talked about that a lot. It's a lot of people lose everything when they switch paths. Granted, you didn't switch paths completely. It's still real estate, but it's a switch. You have to learn new things, whole new industry.
Exactly.
So, piece of advice to the audience. Hospitality or multifamily, is it just stick in one lane? Is it kind of go dabble back and forth? Or what would you leave them with?
Do what you want to do. It doesn't even have to be real estate. It can be whatever business. I would opt to start with the more stable business. If you have one or the other, hospitality, you have seasonality.
You have lots of highs and lots of lows.
Your income goes like this, and the policy has a lot to happen. If we have another government shutdown, for example, that changes hospitality. Here, in separated cabins, shutdowns actually boost business. Other businesses, it tanks it. But I don't want volatility when I'm starting. Something like stable long-term leases and multifamily, if you're between those two, I would start there and build your way to hospitality. Totally depends on your business. At the end of the day, though, choose what you want to do. Your life is finite, so don't waste all your time building a business that you don't want to build. Do what you want to do, and if you're between two things, choose the one that is more stable and consistent first, and you can scale to the other thing later.
Completely agree with that. I think it's a big mistake some people make is, they see the upside in this business, but they absolutely hate it.
Yep.
And if you hate what you're doing, it's going to be so hard to put all your time and energy into that business.
Yep. And again, reminder, you are in fact going to die. So do some of the things that you want to do while you're alive.
That makes sense to me. And where can people find you? Are we talking Instagram, Facebook? Where are we looking?
So my business partner and I, Cody, have our own YouTube channel, Cody and Christian Multifamily Strategy. Check that out. That is a lot on real estate and all of our adventures. If you want to follow me specifically, it's at Christian Osgood on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Christian, for the interview. It was great talking to you again.
Thank you for having me, friend.